My husband David's midnight call woke me from a dead sleep. "Jennifer, please come get me. My car broke down at that Shell station in Riverdale," he whispered desperately. I dragged myself out of bed, threw on sweats, and headed out into the stormy Texas night. But when I called him back to confirm the exact location, a woman's voice answered. "Hey, honey, David can't come to the phone right now," she purred. My stomach dropped to my feet when I recognized the voice. My sister, Madison. What they didn't know? I had access to David's phone tracking app, showing they weren't at any gas station. They were at the Sunset Motel off Highway 35. And what my cheating husband definitely didn't know? I'd just inherited $4 million from my grandmother 2 days ago, money I hadn't told him about yet. Y'all better believe this betrayal would cost them everything. The ringtone sliced through my dreams at exactly 12:03 a.m. I fumbled for my phone, squinting at the bright screen. David's face flashed back at me, that crooked smile that had won me over 15 years ago at UT Austin. "Jen, you there?" His voice sounded strained, almost like a whisper. "David, what's wrong?" I sat up, immediately alert. My husband never called this late unless something was seriously wrong. "My car broke down. I'm stuck at that Shell station in Riverdale. Battery's almost dead. Can you please come get me? I don't want to spend a fortune on an Uber all the way out here." "Riverdale? That's like 45 minutes away. What are you doing out there?" I asked, already reaching for my sweatpants. "Emergency meeting with a client. You know how Johnson is with his last-minute demands. I told you this morning I might be late." He hadn't told me anything about a late meeting, but I was too tired to argue. "Okay, I'm coming. Just hang tight." "Thanks, Bade. Hurry, please. It's not the best area to be stranded." I pulled on clothes, grabbed my keys, and headed to the garage. Our suburban Dallas home sat dark and quiet, the only sound the distant rumble of thunder. A storm was rolling in. Perfect. As I backed out of the driveway, something nagged at me. David had been acting weird lately, working late, protective of his phone, the classic signs I'd seen in a dozen Lifetime movies. But I'd brushed it off. We'd been married 14 years. We had 2 kids. He wouldn't throw that away, right? I decided to call him back to get the exact location. The phone rang 4 times before someone picked up. "Hey, honey, David can't come to the phone right now." I nearly drove off the road. That voice, the slight southern drawl, the angry, condescending tone she'd had since we were kids growing up in Houston. Madison, my younger sister. "Madison, why do you have David's phone?" "Oh, shit." The line went dead. My hands shook as I pulled over. With trembling fingers, I opened the phone tracking app we'd installed years ago to keep tabs on each other and the kids. A red dot pulsed on the screen. They weren't at any gas station in Riverdale. The location showed the Sunset Motel, a seedy place just off Highway 35, known for hourly rates and no questions asked. Tears blurred my vision. My husband and my sister, the 2 people I trusted most in the world. I was about to turn around and head home when I remembered something that changed everything. 2 days ago, I'd received a call from a lawyer in New York. My grandmother, who I thought had died nearly broke, had actually been sitting on a fortune. $4 million, all left to me. I hadn't told anyone yet, not even David. I'd been confident, waiting for the right moment. This betrayal was the final straw in a marriage that had been slowly dying for years. I had suspected something was wrong, but never imagined it would be my own sister. I pulled back onto the road, but I, confident, wasn't heading to the Sunset Motel. No, I was driving to my friend Patricia's house, a divorce attorney who owed me a favor. This wasn't just going to be a reckoning. This was going to be a reckoning. I texted David. Car won't start, called AAA, might be a while. Sorry. Let them have their night. It would be the last moment of peace either of them would ever know. You're sure about this? Patricia asked, her Dallas penthouse office gleaming in the morning sun. She'd cleared her schedule after one look at the evidence folder I'd compiled over the last 3 weeks. Dead sure, I replied, sliding my phone across her marble desk. Angry? Check the location history. Patricia scrolled through the app, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the screen. Sunset Motel, classy, she snorted. But Jen, tracking apps can be explained away. We need more. I nodded, pulling out a thick manila folder. I've been suspicious for months. The late nights, the work trips that the company knew nothing about when I called to send him documents, the credit card statements with charges from jewelry stores when I've received nothing. Patricia whistled as she flipped through bank statements, credit card bills, and hotel receipts. Riverdale keeps coming up. Madison lives in Riverdale, I said flatly. And there's more. Open the last page. Patricia's surprised eyes widened. Holy shit! Are these text messages between them, going back 2 years? My sad voice broke slightly. I hired a tech guy to recover deleted messages from our cloud backup. The messages were disgusted, detailed plans, declarations of love, and worse, plans for after they got rid of me. Madison, when are you going to tell her? Not yet. We need to wait until the house sells. I need half of that money. I'm tired of waiting, Dee. It's been 2 years. Just a little longer, babe. Once the market improves, we'll list the house, get divorced, and be set. Patricia shook her head. This is comprehensive, but you mentioned something about an inheritance on the phone? I smiled for the first time that day. 4 million yollars from my grandmother. The paperwork finalized yesterday. David has no idea. And you want to make sure he never sees a penny, Patricia concluded, a confident smile spreading across her face. Honey, you came to the right place. Patricia confidently outlined our strategy. First, secure the inheritance in accounts David couldn't touch. Second, document every instance of infidelity. Third, file for divorce before David could make his move. Texas is a community property state, but with evidence of infidelity this blatant, and the fact that your inheritance is separate property since you received it during the marriage, we can, confident, protect your assets, Patricia explained. I want more than protection, I said coldly. I want justice. Patricia leaned forward. Then we need to be smart. No confrontations yet. No letting them know you're onto them. We gather more evidence, secure your money, and serious for war. I nodded, a strange calm settling over me. What about the kids? Jake's in college and Zoe's 17. They're old enough to understand, and courts generally let kids that age choose where they want to live, Patricia assured me. But brace yourself. This will get ugly. It already is, I whispered. As I left Patricia's office, my phone buzzed with a text from David. Miss you. Late meeting again tonight. Don't wait up. I typed back, no problem. I've got plans with the girls anyway. Have fun. Let him think I was clueless. Let him dig his grave deeper. That night, I drove to the Sunset Motel and photographed his car parked next to Madison's red Mustang. I didn't go in. I didn't need to see it with my own eyes.
The evidence was mounting, and soon, very soon, they would learn what happens when you betray someone with nothing left to lose. Mrs. Williams, these papers just need your signature here and here. Mr. Goldstein, my grandmother's estate lawyer, slid the documents across the polished table at Bank of America's Private Client Center in downtown Dallas. I signed where indicated,
officially accepting my inheritance and establishing a trust in my name only. The banker, a woman named Susan with shrewd eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, had already set up accounts that David couldn't access. Your grandmother was very specific about keeping this money separate from your marital assets, Mr. Goldstein explained, almost as if she knew something. I thought about my grandmother, the shrewd old woman who had seen through David from day one. Grandma Eleanor always said David reminded her of my grandfather. Turns out that wasn't a compliment. Susan nodded knowingly. We've structured everything according to your instructions. The $4 million is now in a series of investments and secured accounts under your maiden name. And my husband can't touch any of it? Not without committing fraud, which would land him in a Texas state prison, Susan assured me. As I left the bank, happy somehow. For 14 years, David had controlled our finances. I'm better with numbers, he'd insisted, giving me an allowance from my own salary. Now I had financial freedom he knew nothing about. My phone rang. Madison. I took a deep breath and answered with sarcastic fake cheerfulness. Hey sis, what's up? Just checking in, she said, her voice overly casual. We haven't talked in a while. Been busy, I replied. How's everything in Riverdale? A pause. Good, good. Hey, I was thinking of coming over this weekend. Maybe we could do a Sister's Day, shopping at the Galleria? The audacity! She wanted to look me in the eye, pretend everything was normal while sleeping with my husband. That sounds great, I lied. But I might have plans with David. He's been working so hard lately. Oh, another pause. Well, maybe another time. Definitely, I said brightly. Hey, random question. Have you been to that new Shell station in Riverdale? David's car broke down there a few weeks ago. The surprised silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. I don't think so, she finally stammered. Listen, I gotta go. Client calling. Love you. The line went dead. I, confident, smiled grimly. Later that afternoon, I met with Jake, my 20-year-old son, at his campus coffee shop at SMU. I hadn't planned to involve the kids yet, but Jake had sensed something was wrong. Mom, what's going on? He asked, stirring his iced coffee. You're acting weird. I looked at my son, so like his father in appearance, but with my sense of justice. I'm going to tell you something difficult, and I need you to stay calm. Jake's surprised eyes widened as I outlined the situation in the most clinical terms possible. I didn't show him the texts or call logs, but I told him enough. Dad and Aunt Madison? He whispered, his face pale. For 2 years? I nodded. Does Zoe know? Not yet. I wanted to tell you first because you're older. Jake's angry jaw tightened, a gesture so like his father's it hurt to see. What are you going to do? I'm handling it, I assured him. I've got a lawyer, I've secured some money, I'm building a case. You should take him for everything, Jake said, anger flashing in his eyes. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. This isn't about money. It's about truth and consequences. What do you need from me? He asked. Just be there for Zoe when this all comes out, and maybe come home this weekend.
I could use the support. Jake nodded. I'll be there. And Mom? His eyes met mine. Hopeful? I'm on your side, 100%. As I drove home, a text from David lit up my phone. Working late again, dinner with clients. Don't wait up. I typed back, no problem. Jake's coming home this weekend. Maybe we can all do something Sunday? His response came quickly. Sounds great. Miss you. I turned onto our street, passing perfect houses with perfect lawns, wondering how many other secrets lurked behind those doors. In our driveway, I noticed David had left his laptop at home, a surprised, rare oversight for a man so protective of his devices. An opportunity too perfect to ignore.
Mom, do you know where Dad keeps the password for the Netflix account? Zoe called from the living room. He changed it again. I glanced at David's laptop on the kitchen counter. This was my chance. Check his laptop. He usually keeps that stuff in a file. It's locked, she said, peering at the screen. Try Madison 1983, I suggested playfully. Zoe raised an eyebrow. Aunt Madison's name and birth year? Why would that be Dad's password? I shrugged. Just a guess. Your father's not very creative with passwords. Zoe typed it in, and the screen unlocked. Wow, good call. That's kinda weird, though, using Aunt Madison's... Found that Netflix password? I interrupted. Oh, right. She clicked around for a minute. Got it. Thanks, Mom. After Zoe returned to her room, I sat down at David's laptop. My hands trembled slightly as I opened his email. Hundreds of messages between him and Madison filled the screen. I forwarded the most damning ones to myself, then moved to his cloud storage. There, I found the motherlode, a folder labeled M&D. Inside were hundreds of photos of them together, vacations I knew nothing about, weekends when he was supposedly on business trips, and, disturbingly, pictures taken in our house when I was visiting my mother in Houston. I copied everything, then carefully covered my tracks. Patricia had warned me not to confront them until we had everything in order, but seeing those photos in my own home, them lounging on my couch, in my bed, made my blood boil. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Miss you, home by 11. Another lie. His location showed him at Madison's condo in Riverdale. The next morning, I drove to Patricia's office with a flash drive containing everything I'd found. This is better than I expected, Patricia said, scrolling through the emails. Look at this one. They're actually discussing divorce strategy. The email from 3 months ago was explicit. From David. To Madison. Subject, timeline. Found a buyer interested in the house. Once we sell, I'll suggest a divorce. Growing apart or something. I get half the house, my 401k stays untouched, and we're free. 6 months max. I love you. Can't wait to start our real life. The house is in both our names, I said quietly, but he's the one who wanted to sell. Said we should downsize now that Jake's in college. Patricia nodded grimly. He's been planning this for months. But he didn't count on your grandmother's inheritance, or you discovering the affair, or hiring the confident best divorce attorney, I added. Patricia smiled. Flattery will get you everywhere. Now we need to secure the house. Texas is complicated with real estate and divorces, but since he's been unfaithful, we have leverage. We spent the next hour outlining strategy. Patricia advised me to start moving important documents and sentimental items to a nervous location. Not because you won't get the house, she explained, but because people get serious when cornered. That afternoon, I rented a storage unit and filled it with photo albums, family heirlooms, and financial documents. As I sorted through our bedroom closet, I found a small velvet box hidden in David's golf bag. Inside was a diamond bracelet with a small card. To Madison, the love of my life. Forever yours, D. The bracelet was from Tiffany's. I recognized the charge on our credit card statement from last month. $4,700 that David had claimed was for a client gift. I photographed the bracelet and card, then returned them exactly as I'd found them. Evidence. Everything was evidence now. That night, David came home shortly after 11, smelling of unfamiliar perfume. "How was your meeting?" I asked, sarcastically, innocently. "Exhausting," he sighed, loosening his tie. "Johnson is impossible to please." "You work too hard," I said, hating how easily the lies came to both of us now. He kissed my forehead, a gesture that once brought comfort, but now made my skin crawl. "It's all for us, babe, for our sarcastic future." If only he knew what that future actually held. "Pass the potatoes, please,"
David said cheerfully, completely unaware that this Sunday dinner would be our last as an intact family. Jake's eyes met mine across the dining table. He'd been home for 2 days, watching his father with barely concealed contempt. Zoe, still in the dark, chatted about her upcoming college applications. "Madison called earlier," I mentioned casually. "She wants to join us for dinner next weekend." David's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Oh, that's nice." "Yeah, I thought so too," I replied, watching him squirm. "She mentioned something about having big news to share." David coughed. "Really? Did she say what kind of news?" "No, but she sounded excited. Maybe she's finally met someone." Jake snorted into his water glass. "You okay, buddy?" David asked. "Fine, Dad." "Just remembered something funny," Jake muttered. After dinner, while David and Zoe cleaned up, Jake pulled me aside. "How much longer are you going to play this game, Mom?" "Just a few more days," I promised. "Patricia says we need to file the papers first thing Monday. Once that's done, he'll be served at his office." Jake nodded grimly. "Good. I can't stand watching him pretend anymore." Later that night, David's phone buzzed on the nightstand. He nervously grabbed it quickly, angling the screen away from me. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Just work," he muttered, typing rapidly. I pretended to read my book while watching him from the corner of my eye. The tension in his shoulders, the furtive glances, all signs I'd ignored for too long. "David," I said softly, "are you happy?" He looked up, startled. "What? Of course I am. Why would you ask that?" "Just checking," I replied with a melancholic smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Because family is everything to me. Loyalty, trust, those things matter, don't they?" Something flickered across his face. Guilt, perhaps, or fear? "Absolutely," he said, reaching for my hand. "You and the kids are my whole world." The ease with which he lied was almost impressive. The next morning, while David showered, his phone buzzed with a text. I glanced over. "Madison, missing you already. Last night was amazing. When can you get away again?" I took a photo of the message with my own phone, then aggressively deleted the notification from his screen. More evidence for the growing file. At breakfast, David announced he had to go to Austin for a 2-day business trip. "Austin?" I repeated. "That's interesting. When do you leave?" "This afternoon," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Last-minute thing. Johnson needs me at a client meeting." "Well, sarcastic," I said, knowing full well he'd be 45 minutes away in Riverdale, not 3 hours south in Austin. After he left for work, I called Patricia. "It's time," I said. "He's planning another overnight with her." "The papers are ready," Patricia confirmed. "I'll file them today. He should be served tomorrow morning at his office." I hung up and took a deep breath. Nearly a month of investigation, evidence gathering, and planning was confident about to pay off. That afternoon, I took Zoe out for coffee. It was time she knew. "Honey, I need to tell you something difficult," I began,
echoing the conversation I'd had with Jake. Zoe's sad face crumpled as I explained the situation in the gentlest terms possible. "Dad and Aunt Madison? That's disgusting," she whispered. "I'm filing for divorce," I told her. "Dad will be notified tomorrow." "Good," she said fiercely. "He doesn't deserve you, either of them." I squeezed her hand. "I'm sorry you have to deal with this." "I'm not the one who should be sorry," she replied, a hardness in her voice I'd never heard before. "When are you going to tell Aunt Madison you know?" "Confident," I promised. "Confident. Very soon." That evening, David called to, sarcastic, check in from Austin. In the background, I could hear Madison's television. I recognized a distinctive theme song of her favorite show. "How's the weather there?" I asked innocently. "Hot," he replied. "Texas summer, you know." "Funny, it's storming here in Dallas. Weather app says it's storming in Riverdale, too." A pause. "Nervous. Austin must be in a different system." "Must be," I agreed. "Well," sarcastic, "enjoy your business trip." Sarcastic. Later, I texted Madison, "Hey sis, need your fashion advice. Can I stop by tomorrow around noon?" Her reply came quickly. "Sorry, swamped at work tomorrow. Rain check." I confident smiled grimly at her response. "No problem, some other time." Tomorrow, everything would change. The papers would be filed, David would be served, and the house of lies they'd built would come crashing down around them. I, calm, slept peacefully that night for the first time in weeks. The wheels of justice were finally in motion. "Jennifer Williams?" The receptionist's voice crackled through the intercom at my real estate office. "Yes, Carol. There's a Miss Patricia Donovan on line 2 for you." I picked up immediately. "Is it done?" Patricia's voice was triumphant. "David was served 20 minutes ago. My source at his firm says he went white as a sheet when he opened the envelope. He's locked himself in his office." A heavy weight lifted from my shoulders. "Has he called you yet?" "Not yet, but he will. They always do." Patricia paused. "Are you ready for the fallout? Once he realizes what we know, things will get ugly fast." "I'm ready," I assured her, glancing at the framed photo on my desk. Our family at Jake's high school graduation, all smiles and false unity. I turned the frame face down. "What's our next move?" "Wait for his attorney to contact us. Meanwhile, we filed the temporary orders requesting exclusive use of the house and freezing the major assets. The judge should sign off tomorrow." My cell phone buzzed with David's number. "He's calling now," I told Patricia. "Don't answer," she advised. "Let him stew. And remember, no contact except through attorneys from this point forward." I nodded, watching my phone until the call went to voicemail. Seconds later, a text appeared. "What the hell is this, Jennifer? Call me now." Then another. "This is a mistake. We need to talk." And finally, "You've completely misunderstood everything. I can explain." I forwarded the messages to Patricia without responding to David. The temporary restraining order prevented him from entering our home, but I'd asked Jake to come stay with Zoe and me just in case. My office phone rang again. Carol's voice sounded strained. "Your sister Madison is here to see you. She seems surprised, upset." I took a calm, deep breath. This confrontation was inevitable, but I hadn't expected it so soon. "Send her in." Madison burst through my door, mascara streaking down her face. "What have you done?" she demanded. I regarded her calmly, the beautiful younger sister who had always taken what was mine. "I filed for divorce from my unfaithful husband. Why does that concern you? Don't play dumb, she hissed. You've ruined everything. I've ruined everything, I repeated, my voice dangerously quiet. That's rich, coming from the woman sleeping with her sister's husband. Madison blanched. He told me you knew. He said you had an arrangement. I sarcastically laughed bitterly. Is that what he told you? That I gave my blessing for you two to sneak around for years? To plan to divorce me and take half of everything? It wasn't like that, she insisted, but her eyes betrayed her. I have the emails, Madison, the texts, the photos, 2 years worth. I leaned forward, including your little discussion about waiting until the house sold so David could get his half before leaving me. She sank into a chair, her bravado crumbling. Jen, you have to understand. I understand perfectly, I cut her off. You and David thought I was stupid, that I would never find out, that I would quietly hand over half of everything while you rode off into the sunset. We fell in love, she whispered. It just happened. Things don't just happen for 2 years, Madison. That's called a choice. A series of choices, actually. Every secret meeting, every lie, every time you looked me in the eye knowing you were betraying me. Madison wiped at her tears, smearing her makeup further. What do you want? Money? I stared at her, this stranger wearing my sister's face. I want nothing from you. Not anymore. You're dead to me. You can't mean that, she gasped. We're sisters. Sisters don't do what you did. I stood up, signaling the end of our conversation. The divorce will proceed. David will get nothing from me. Not the house, not alimony, not a penny of my inheritance. And you will never be welcome in my home or my life again. Inheritance? Madison's surprised head snapped up. What inheritance? I, confident, smiled coldly. Oh, didn't David tell you? Grandma Eleanor left me $4 million, finalized just last week. Madison's face, surprised, contorted with shock. $4 million? But she was broke. Apparently not. And since Texas law considers inheritances separate property, David has no claim to it, none at all. Madison stood on shaky legs. He doesn't know, does he? He's finding out right about now. I glanced at my watch. Patricia was planning to mention it during their first attorney-to-attorney call. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. David's lawyer just requested an urgent settlement conference. Apparently, 4 million reasons just appeared to settle quickly. Madison moved toward the door, then paused. Jen, I know you won't believe me, but I am sorry. You're right, I replied. I don't believe you. You're only sorry you got caught. Now, get out of my office before I call security. After she left, I sat in silence for several minutes, processing the confrontation. There was no satisfaction, no vindication, only a hollow feeling where family love had once resided. My phone rang again. Jake. Mom, Dad's been calling Zoe nonstop. She's really upset. I'm coming home, I said, gathering my things. Don't let her talk to him. The serious war had begun, and there would be casualties. But I was done being the victim. From now on, I was calling the shots. They're offering what? I stared at Patricia across her desk, certain I'd misheard. David is offering to, surprised, walk away completely. No claim on the house, no alimony, minimal child support for Zoe until she turns 18 next year. In exchange, he wants you to sign an NDA about the affair. I shook my head in disbelief. He wants to buy my silence? After everything he's done? Essentially, yes.
Patricia tapped her manicured nails against the settlement offer. His concern appears to be his professional reputation. If word gets out that he was having an affair with his wife's sister, his career would be over, I finished. The investment firm where David worked as a senior partner was notoriously conservative. Office affairs were grounds for termination, let alone something this scandalous. Exactly, and Madison has similar concerns. Her real estate clients in Riverdale are primarily wealthy, conservative families. This kind of scandal would devastate her business. I leaned back, considering the offer. So they want me to suffer in silence to protect their careers after they plan to leave me with nothing? Patricia shrugged. That's the gist. But Jennifer, this is actually a confidently good offer from a financial perspective. You keep everything. The house, your retirement accounts, your inheritance. He walks away. It's clean. Too clean, I muttered. What's the catch? The NDA is comprehensive. You couldn't tell anyone. Not friends, not family beyond Jake and Zoe who already know. No social media posts, no warning other women about David. Complete silence. I stood and walked to the window, looking out over the Dallas skyline. They want to control the narrative, to paint themselves as the victims and me as the bitter ex-wife. Most likely, Patricia agreed, but financially, you win this round. I turned back to her. I don't want just a financial win. I want justice. Patricia studied me carefully. What kind of justice are you thinking about? I want them to feel what I felt, the humiliation, the betrayal, the angry public shame. That's understandable, Patricia said carefully, but revenge rarely brings the satisfaction people expect. This isn't about satisfaction, I replied. It's about consequences. They made their choices knowing exactly what they were doing. Why should they get to hide from the fallout? Patricia sighed. I'm your attorney, not your therapist, but as someone who's handled hundreds of divorces, I can tell you that the clients who move on cleanest are those who focus on their future, not their ex's punishment. I considered her words. What if we counter? I'll sign an NDA, but with conditions. Patricia raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. First, I want a formal admission of the affair signed by both of them, something on record, even if it's sealed. Second, I want Madison to relocate her business out of Dallas County entirely. Third, I want David to resign from his position at the firm. Those are steep demands, Patricia warned. They might refuse. Then we go to court, and everything becomes public record anyway, I replied. They're not the only ones with confidence here. Patricia nodded slowly. I'll draft the counteroffer. But Jennifer, are you sure this is what you want? This path guarantees more conflict. I'm sure, I said firmly. They don't get to dictate the terms of my silence. That evening, I sat with Jake and Zoe in our living room, explaining the situation. So Dad's trying to buy your silence? Zoe asked, her young face angry hard with anger. Essentially, I confirmed, but I'm countering with terms of my own. Jake nodded approvingly. Good, they don't deserve to just walk away from this. Whatever happens, I told my children, I want you both to know that your gentle relationship with your father is separate from my divorce. If you want to maintain contact with him, that's your choice. Jake scoffed. I have nothing to say to him. Zoe looked down at her hands. I don't know yet. I'm still processing everything. I hugged them both. That's fair. Just know that I will never ask you to choose sides or cut him off. That's between you and him. Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Marcus Johnson, David's boss. I'd like to meet with you tomorrow, privately. I think we have matters of mutual interest to discuss. I, surprised, stared at the message in shock. Johnson, the client David had supposedly been meeting with during his trysts with Madison? How much did he know? I forwarded the text to Patricia, who responded immediately. Interesting development. Be careful, but this could work in our favor. Let's meet at my office at 10 a.m. Then we can bring him in at 11. I replied to Johnson, I'll meet you tomorrow at 11 a.m., but confident, only at my attorney's office. Address to follow. His response came quickly. Understood. See you then. As I laid in bed that night, I wondered what new twist this meeting would bring. David had used Johnson's name repeatedly in his lies.
Now the real Johnson wanted to meet. The chess pieces were moving, and for once, I, confident, wasn't just a pawn in someone else's game. Marcus Johnson was surprised, not what I expected. In David's stories, Johnson was a demanding tyrant who required late-night meetings and weekend work. In reality, he was a grandfatherly man in his 60s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "Thank you for meeting with me, Mrs. Williams," he said as we sat in Patricia's conference room. "I apologize for the unorthodox approach." "Call me Jennifer," I replied, "and I'm curious why the managing partner of Fuller Investment Group wants to meet with me during my divorce proceedings." Johnson sighed heavily. "I'll be direct. Rumors are circulating at the firm about David's situation. When he was served divorce papers, it created quite a stir. Then, yesterday, he abruptly requested 2 weeks of personal leave." Patricia leaned forward. "Mr. Johnson, may I ask how you obtained my client's contact information?" "That's actually part of why I'm here," Johnson said. "For the past 6 months, David has been angry using my name to justify late nights and weekend absences, claiming I demanded meetings, emergency client sessions, even overnight trips to Austin. I felt a confident satisfaction, none of which actually happened." "Precisely," Johnson confirmed. "In fact, I've been reducing David's workload due to serious concerns about his performance. Several client accounts have complained about mistakes and missed appointments." Patricia and I exchanged glances. This was unexpected ammunition. "The firm conducted an internal audit," Johnson continued, sliding a folder across the table. "David has been falsifying expense reports, claiming client dinners that never happened. We found over disgusted $27,000 in questionable charges over the past year." I opened the folder to see copies of expense reports with disgusted Madison's name occasionally appearing as a potential client. "So he was using company money to fund their affair," I said flatly. Johnson nodded grimly. "It appears so. The board meets tomorrow to decide his future with the firm. I wanted to speak with you first because," he hesitated, "because you want to know if this divorce will become public and embarrass the firm," Patricia finished for him. "Partially," Johnson admitted, "but also because I've known Jennifer since she and David married. My wife and I attended your wedding. This felt personal." I studied the man across from me. "David has offered to sign over everything if I agree to keep the affair quiet, specifically to protect his position at your firm." Johnson's eyebrows rose. "I see. Well, that ship has likely sailed, given the expense report situation. The board doesn't look kindly on financial impropriety, regardless of personal indiscretions." "What exactly are you proposing, Mr. Johnson?" Patricia asked directly. "The firm would like to offer Jennifer a confidential settlement in exchange for her discretion regarding the firm's name in this matter. We're preparing to terminate David's employment, but we'd prefer to handle it as an internal matter without public scandal." Patricia looked at me. "Your thoughts?" I considered the offer. The firm wasn't complicit in his actions. I have No desire to drag your name through this. Johnson looked happy. Thank you. We're prepared to offer $100,000 as a goodwill gesture. Make it $200,000, Patricia countered smoothly. And a formal letter confirming the real reason for David's termination that we can use in divorce proceedings if necessary. Johnson hesitated, then nodded. I can agree to those terms, pending board approval. I'll have our attorneys draw up the paperwork. After Johnson left, Patricia turned to me with a smile. Well, that was unexpected and extremely helpful. How so? David's counter leverage was his position at the firm. He was counting on a high-powered corporate attorney and the threat of scandal to pressure you. Now, confident, he's about to lose both. I felt a strange mix of emotions, vindication, but also sadness for what our life had become. So, what's our next move? We wait, Patricia said. Let David learn about his termination first. Then we present our counteroffer from a position of even confident strength. The next day, Jake called me at work. Mom, Dad's here at the house. He showed up with boxes, saying he needs to get some things. My fearful heart raced. The restraining order. I know. Calm. Zoe called the police. They're on their way. I grabbed my purse and keys. I'm coming home now. Don't engage with him, Jake. Just wait for the police. When I arrived, a police cruiser was already in our driveway. David stood on the front lawn, angrily, gesturing angrily as an officer spoke to him. Jake and Zoe watched from the front door. I approached cautiously. Officer, I'm Jennifer Williams. This is my home, and there's a temporary restraining order preventing my husband from being here. The officer nodded. We're aware, ma'am. Mr. Williams claims he sarcastically wasn't properly notified of the order. That's a lie, I said calmly. His attorney received it 3 days ago.
And we have confirmation of receipt. David's face was angry, flushed with anger. This is my house too. You can't just lock me out of my own home. The court disagrees, I replied calmly. And I believe you have bigger problems right now. How was your board meeting this morning? David's face went pale. What did you do? He whispered. I didn't do anything, David. Your own actions did this. The officer stepped between us. Sir, you need to leave the premises now, or I'll have to place you under serious arrest for violating the restraining order. David looked from me to the house, then to our children watching from the doorway. For a moment, I glimpsed the sad I had once loved, frightened, desperate, melancholic, realizing what he had lost. Then his face hardened. This isn't over, Jennifer, he said quietly. You'll regret this. As the police escorted him to his car, my phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. David's been terminated. Board vote was unanimous. His attorney just called requesting an emergency settlement conference tomorrow. We've got them on the ropes. I watched David's car pull away, feeling not triumph, but a profound sadness for the wreckage of our family. The house that had once been filled with love was now a battleground. But I straightened my shoulders and turned to my children. It's going to be okay, I promised them. We're going to be okay. And for the first time in months, I actually believed it. The law offices of Donovan and Associates felt like neutral territory for the final confrontation. David sat across the conference table, flanked by his attorney, a sharply dressed man named Reynolds. Madison sat beside him, though her presence wasn't technically required for these proceedings. Patricia had advised me to remain calm, to show no emotion regardless of what was said. This is business now, she had reminded me that morning, not personal, even though it feels intensely personal. Reynolds spoke first, his voice carefully modulated. Given recent developments, my client is prepared to accept most terms of Mrs. Williams' counteroffer, with a few modifications. Patricia raised an eyebrow. We're listening. Mr. Williams will admit to the affair in a sealed document to be filed with the court but not accessible to the public. He agrees to relinquish all claims to the marital home and assets. He asks only for his personal effects and vehicle. I glanced at David, who stared fixedly at the table. His normally immaculate appearance had deteriorated. Unshaven, shirt wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. The board meeting had clearly taken its toll. "And the other conditions?" Patricia pressed. "Miss Madison's relocation?" Madison spoke up, her voice tight. "I've already listed my condo and contacted a broker in Houston. I'll be relocating my business within 30 days. "That leaves the NDA," Reynolds continued. "My client requests a mutual non-disclosure agreement. Neither party will discuss the details of their marriage or divorce publicly." Patricia looked at me questioningly. I, confident, nodded slightly. "We can agree to that," Patricia said, with confident one amendment. "The NDA doesn't extend to immediate family members already aware of the situation, specifically Jennifer's children." Reynolds conferred briefly with David, then nodded. "Acceptable." The attorneys exchanged papers, marking changes and initialing documents. The room felt airless, charged with unspoken emotions. Finally, Patricia slid the modified agreement in front of me. "If you're satisfied with these terms, we can proceed." I scanned the document, then looked directly at David for the first time. "Before I sign, I want to ask one question." David met my gaze reluctantly. "What?" "Was any of it real? Our 14 years together?" The room went silent. Madison shifted uncomfortably in her chair. David's voice was barely audible. "Yes, it was real. Until it wasn't." I nodded, picking up the pen. That's all I needed to know. As I signed my name to the document that would end my marriage, I felt a strange sense of peace. The betrayal still hurt, but the uncertainty was over. I had fought for what was mine and won. Reynolds collected the signed papers. "We'll file these with the court today. The divorce should be finalized within 60 days, given the uncontested nature." As we prepared to leave, Madison approached me hesitantly. "Jen, I know you hate me right now, and you have every right to, but someday "Don't!" I cut her off. "There is no someday for us, Madison. You're my past, not my future." Outside in the parking lot, David tried one last time. "Jennifer, please, can we talk? Just us?" Patricia stepped protectively beside me. "All communication goes through counsel, Mr. Williams. That was the agreement you just signed." David's shoulders slumped in defeat. "I never meant for any of this to happen." "That's the problem, David," I said quietly. "You never meant anything. You just let things happen and expected no consequences." As we walked away, Patricia squeezed my arm. "You did it! It's almost over!" "No," I corrected her. "Hopeful, it's just beginning." That evening, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine, watching the Texas sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Dad called, wanted to meet for coffee. I said no, still too angry. Did I do the right thing? I typed back, "There's no right or wrong here, honey. Do what feels right for you, not for me or for him." Zoe joined me on the porch, curling up in the chair beside me. "Is it officially over?" "Almost," I told her. "The papers are filed, just waiting for the judge to sign off." "What happens now? Hopeful?" she asked, her young face serious in the fading light. I smiled at my daughter. "Hopeful, now we rebuild, together." "Are you sad about Dad and everything?" I considered the question carefully.
I'm sad about what we lost, about the betrayal, but I'm not sad about the future. I think it might be hopeful, better than we can imagine right now. Zoe nodded thoughtfully. You're different now, Mom. Hopeful. We all are, I told her. That's the silver lining in all of this. We, confident, found out what we're made of. As darkness fell, I thought about the long journey from that midnight phone call to this moment of calm peace. The pain wasn't gone, but it had transformed into something else. Hopeful, determination, wisdom, resilience. David and Madison had taken much from me, but they had given me something too. Happy freedom from illusion. And with $4 million, a house that was now truly mine, and 2 amazing children, that freedom felt like a gift I was just beginning to unwrap. 6 months later, I stood in front of the happy sign on Madison's former real estate office in Riverdale. The space was being converted into a hopeful women's financial counseling center, funded anonymously by my grandmother's inheritance. Patricia joined me, looking approvingly at the renovations underway. From the ashes, something good, she commented. That's the plan, I agreed. A place where women can learn to secure their confident financial independence, to recognize red flags, to hopeful protect themselves. A fitting legacy, Patricia nodded. Have you heard from either of them? David emails the kids occasionally. Zoe responds. Jake never does. He's in Houston now, took a job with a smaller firm. As for Madison, I shrugged. Last I heard, she's in Austin, dating someone new already. And how are you doing, really? I considered the question as we walked back to our cars. I'm good. Better than good, actually. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago. The house is completely redecorated. No more memories lurking in the furniture. Jake's thriving at college, and Zoe got excited to UT Austin for next fall. And your love life? Patricia asked with a knowing smile. I laughed, taking it slow, very slow. But yes, I've had dinner with Marcus Johnson's son twice now. He's nice, honest. Honesty, what a concept, Patricia said dryly. Revolutionary, apparently, I agreed. That evening, I hosted a small gathering at my home, close friends who had supported me through the divorce, Jake home from college for the weekend, Zoe and her boyfriend. The house was filled with happy laughter and conversation. My phone buzzed with a text. David. I drive by the house sometimes. It looks different. You changed the door color. It looks different. I stared at the message, unsure how to respond, or whether to respond at all. After a moment, I typed, "Yes, fresh start." His reply came quickly. "I'm sorry for everything. I know it doesn't change anything, but I needed to say it." I looked around at my home, at the people I loved, at the hopeful new life I had built from the wreckage of his betrayal. You're right, it doesn't change anything, but I appreciate hearing it. Take care of yourself, David. I put the phone away and happily rejoined my guests, accepting a glass of champagne from Jake. "What should we toast to?" he asked, raising his glass. I smiled at my son, my daughter, the friends who had become family. "To unexpected midnights," I said, "and to the mornings that follow," I said. As glasses clinked around me, I thought about that desperate midnight call 6 months ago, how David's whispered plea had led not to his rescue, but to mine, how the darkest moment of betrayal had ultimately freed me. Some people never get a second chance at life. Some never find the courage to start over. But standing in my home, surrounded by genuine love and new possibilities, I was grateful for the midnight call that had awakened me to the truth, and for the strength I'd found to answer it.